Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I'm over on Wicomico Street in the Mount Winans neighborhood, kind of around the corner from the Carroll Park Golf Course, if you know where that is. And behind me are two of the last remaining buildings of the old Maryland Glass Company, a manufacturing facility that, among other things, made the signature blue bottles for Bromo Seltzer and Noxzema, that other Baltimore-based firm that wonderfully made it big on the national level. And that's what we're going to talk about today, as well as how Baltimore was a hub of glass manufacturing in early America. And let's start there. Glass making in America started really from the very first European colonists. Jamestown, 1607, they were making glass, shortly followed by folks in New Amsterdam, what we call New York today, as well as the Massachusetts Bay Company area, centered around Boston. Now, European countries were notoriously secretive about their glass making processes. They didn't want that to get out. But we had enough immigrants from Germany and Poland mainly who came over with glass making knowledge that we were able to start our own firms here. Maryland, along with Pennsylvania and New Jersey, were hubs of glass manufacturing, again with German and Polish immigrants leading the way. In Maryland, one of our earliest pioneers in that field was a gentleman named John Amelung, who made glass in Frederick, Maryland. By about 1800, maybe late 1700s, he had opened a facility here in Baltimore with his son, also John Amelung. When the Amelungs went to choose a location, they picked a place near Federal Hill. And that made a lot of sense because Federal Hill is basically a big pile of sand. Now, we've heard a lot of stories about how the tunnels underneath Federal Hill were part of the defense of Baltimore in the War of 1812, or they were part of the Underground Railroad network in the years before the Civil War. And as far as we can tell, those are, well, really good stories. What we do know, though, is there are tunnels underneath Federal Hill, and they were used for excavating sand. The sand there had a really high-quality silica in it, which was a key ingredient in glass making. So the Amelungs located their facility here near Federal Hill, and they were joined by a number of other glass firms as well. The Baltimore Glass Works, the Bucks Glass Company, Spring Gardens Glass Works, the Maryland Window Glass Works, Swindler Brothers, Baltimore Flint Glass Works, to name a few. In fact, there were so many glass manufacturers around Federal Hill, that area became known as Glass House Row, and Federal Hill itself got the nickname Glass Hill. But let's now jump to the early 1900s in Baltimore, and that's when a gentleman, a pharmacist named Isaac Emerson, began manufacturing Bromo Seltzer to cure people's headaches. And by about 1907, his sales were going through the roof, in part because it was a good product. It cured headaches and hangovers, by the way, and in part because he was a great marketer. One of his jingles was, "If you keep late hours for society's sake, Bromo Seltzer will cure that headache." Pretty clever. And then his signature blue bottle that Bromo Seltzer, the medicine, came in, that cobalt blue. And by about 1907, he was needing more blue bottles than the bottle manufacturers could produce. So he decided, well, why not? I can start my own bottle manufacturing company. And that's what he did. With $100,000, he formed the Maryland Glass Company here on Wicomico Street, and began producing the signature blue bottles. At first, they were hand-blown individually, but by about 1911, the year that the signature Bromo Seltzer Tower downtown went up, by about that date, they were being produced automatically with machines. And in fact, the Maryland Glass Company was one of the pioneers in automating glass manufacture in America. As a somewhat aside, Isaac Emerson was not really known as the most magnanimous of people. For example, he had a spectacularly public and ugly divorce with his wife, fighting over all their stuff, but he was very good to his workers. The shop here was a union shop, and when automation set in, he still treated his skilled workers very well. By the 1920s, Maryland Glass was producing more glass than Bromo Seltzer needed, and they began selling to other products, and I bet you know some of these other products that had that signature royal blue glass. That's what they called it at first, then changing it to being called Maryland Blue, and those were Phillips Milk of Medicine, Magnesia. I know some of you remember that. Vicks Vapor Rub. I bet a number of us have Vicks Vapor Rub blue bottles in our medicine cabinets today. And then, of course, Noxzema, that skincare product that was founded by another Baltimore pharmacist back in the early 1900s. The Maryland Glass Company rolled along with the Emerson Drug Company for a number of years, all the way up until 1956, when both companies were purchased by the giant Warner Lambert Pharmaceutical. They transferred, Maryland Glass transferred several times after that, and by the late 1980s was owned by a company called the Kelly Glass Company. But by 1981, the entire facility was shut down and has not produced glass ever since. So the buildings behind me, I'm going to wrap up, are no longer producing glass. They're part of a facility that now is a poultry producing facility. But I'll end by saying the next time you look in your medicine cabinet and find maybe a Vicks Vapor Rub, or if you come to the Bromo Seltzer Tower and look at the fabulous exhibit of Maryland Blue Bromo Seltzer glass, think of the Maryland Glass Company founded by Isaac Emerson here on Wicomico Street and our rich glass history in Baltimore. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.